Hey guys, tonight we're travelling back nearly 2,000 years into the quiet evenings of ancient Rome. In this episode of Boring History for Sleep, we'll explore something surprisingly peaceful. How ancient Romans relaxed after war. What did soldiers do when the battles were over? How did they calm their minds, soothe their tired bodies, and return to ordinary life? Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy calm history content like this. It really helps the channel grow. And I'm curious, right now, as you're listening, which city are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Now, take a slow breath in and let it go. Let's begin. Imagine the Roman Empire at its height. Long stone roads stretching across Europe, legions marching in disciplined lines, standards lifted high in the wind. But tonight, we are not standing on a battlefield. The clash of shields has faded, the dust has settled, the marching drums are silent. Instead, we are following a single Roman soldier as he returns home. His name does not matter. He could be any of thousands. He has marched for months, perhaps years, through forests of Germania, across the dry hills of Hispania, along the deserts near Syria. His armour is heavy, his sandals worn. His shoulders carry not just equipment, but memory. Now imagine him approaching the city gates of Rome. The noise is different here. No battle cries, only distant conversation. Merchants calling softly, water flowing from fountains. For a Roman soldier, returning home was a strange feeling. War was structured, clear, ordered, but peace required adjustment. And this is where relaxation began. Not in luxury, but in routine. The first thing many soldiers did after completing a campaign was visit the public baths. The Roman bathhouse, the thermae, was not just a place to wash, it was a place to reset. Picture a large stone building, tall arches, marble columns, warm steam rising into the air. Inside, the light is soft. Sunlight filters through high windows, reflecting gently off pale stone floors. The soldier removes his armour, places his sword aside, and for the first time in months, he feels lighter. In the changing room, called the apoditerium, he sets down his belongings. There is no rush here, no orders being shouted, only quiet movement. From there he enters the warm room, the tepidarium. The air is gentle, comforting. His muscles begin to loosen. After weeks of sleeping on hard ground, this warmth feels almost unreal. He closes his eyes for a moment, breath steady, shoulders lowering. The Romans understood something important. Relaxation was not weakness, it was maintenance. A strong empire required strong bodies, and strong bodies required rest. From the warm room, he moves to the hot bath, the caldarium. Steam rises thickly, water heated by an underground furnace system called the hypocaust. Ingenious engineering, fire beneath the floors, warm air flowing through hollow walls. Even in winter the baths remained inviting. He steps slowly into the hot pool. Heat surrounds him, muscles soften. The tension in his back slowly dissolves. Nearby, other soldiers sit quietly. No loud talking, just low murmurs, shared glances. There is comfort in shared survival. After the hot bath comes the cold plunge, the frigidarium, a sudden cool immersion, sharp at first, then refreshing. The Romans believed this strengthened the body, improved circulation, closed the pores. It was balance, heat, cold, tension, release. In many ways, it mirrors what we seek tonight, a release from the day. But bathing was only one part of relaxation. After washing, a Roman might receive a massage, not with scented lotions as we know today, but with olive oil, a thin layer poured onto the skin, then gently scraped away using a curved tool called a strigil. It removed dirt and sweat, but also symbolized something deeper, the shedding of hardship, the removal of dust from distant lands, war slowly being wiped away. Now imagine evening approaching. The sky over Rome turns soft gold. The soldier leaves the bathhouse, clean, calm, carrying lighter thoughts. He walks through narrow streets, past bakeries closing for the night, past children playing quietly. Peace has a sound. It is not silence. It is softness. At home, perhaps in a modest apartment building, an insula, he climbs wooden stairs, or perhaps he returns to a small countryside villa if he has earned wealth. Wherever he rests, dinner awaits. Roman meals after campaign were simple pleasures: fresh bread, olives, cheese, wine diluted with water, nothing extravagant, but deeply satisfying. He reclines slightly while eating. Romans often ate lying on couches, a position that encouraged leisure. Conversation is slow, stories told without urgency, laughter but not loud. After battle, men often preferred quiet company. Later in the evening, some might visit a friend's home, not to discuss politics, not to argue, but to listen to poetry. Roman culture valued spoken word, verses recited by candlelight, stories of gods, of distant heroes, but also of farming, of love, of nature. The mind needed something gentler after months of survival thinking. And this is something universal, across time, across civilizations. Humans require transition, from chaos to calm, from alertness to rest. The Romans structured this transition carefully. Some soldiers, especially veterans, purchased small farms. Land grants were common rewards. Imagine our soldier years later, no longer marching, instead, walking through olive groves at sunset, tending vines, listening to wind move through leaves. Rural life was considered deeply restorative. Roman writers often praised the countryside as morally pure and mentally peaceful. Even generals retired to villas. After commanding thousands, they sought gardens, fountains, quiet libraries. In these spaces, relaxation became philosophy. Stoic thinkers taught emotional control, acceptance of what cannot be changed, calm endurance. These ideas spread through Roman society. A soldier returning from war might sit in a shaded courtyard listening to a philosopher speak softly, not about conquest, but about peace of mind. Imagine that contrast. From battlefield dust to shaded marble courtyard, from shouting commanders to whispering fountains, from tension to stillness. The Roman Empire is often remembered for power, for expansion, for discipline, but rarely do we picture this softer side. The bath steam rising slowly, the quiet clink of pottery, the steady pouring of wine, the rhythm of sandals on stone streets at dusk. Even large public bath complexes included gardens, statues, libraries. Yes, libraries inside bathhouses. Because relaxation was not only physical, it was intellectual. A Roman might finish bathing and then read scrolls, or listen to debates, gentle arguments about ethics, about virtue, about what makes a good life, and perhaps, after months of witnessing human conflict, these discussions felt especially meaningful. Night falls slowly over Rome, oil lamps flicker, stars appear faintly above rooftops. Our soldier lies down on a simple bed, stuffed mattress, wool blanket. The city outside hums softly, but his breathing slows. There is no enemy nearby, no watch to keep, only rest. The Roman military machine was powerful because it allowed for cycles, campaign, return, recover, rebuild. Without recovery, even the strongest empire weakens, and this was understood. In fact, Roman commanders sometimes built temporary bath facilities near military camps, even during long campaigns, because morale depended on restoration. Think about that. Even in harsh environments, they made space for warmth, for water, for humanity. Now, as your own breathing becomes slower, imagine stepping into that warm Roman bath. Steam rising gently around you, stone walls glowing faintly in torchlight, water perfectly still. You lower yourself slowly, heat embracing your shoulders. No deadlines, no modern noise, only ancient quiet. The Romans may have lived in a world of conquest, but they also understood something timeless. After hardship, there must be softness. After noise, silence. After motion, stillness. And tonight, you're allowed that stillness. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw relax. Imagine olive oil being gently poured across your skin, not rushed, not hurried, just slow, careful, deliberate, the strigil scraping lightly, removing dust, removing tension, removing the day. Outside, Rome breathes quietly. Inside, warmth surrounds you, and just like that Roman soldier, you have reached the quiet after the march. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to conquer, only rest. Tonight, we leave the city behind and travel outward, beyond Rome's stone walls, beyond its crowded streets, out toward the countryside, where retired generals and veterans sought something softer than glory. They sought stillness. The villa after victory. When a successful Roman general returned from campaign, he did not simply fade into ordinary life. He often built, or expanded, a countryside estate. These estates were called villas. But not all villas were extravagant palaces. Some were modest farming homes. Others were vast properties stretching across rolling hills. Imagine approaching one at dusk. The road is lined with cypress trees. Gravel crunches gently beneath sandals. In the distance, a low stone house with red-tiled roofs rests quietly against the land. There are no cheering crowds here, no banners, only fields, olive groves, and wind moving through tall grass. The Roman elite believed something important. The countryside healed the spirit. After years of decision-making, commanding legions, facing uncertainty, they longed for something predictable. Sunrise, sunset, harvest, rain. Cycles of nature replace cycles of war. Gardens as therapy. Roman villas almost always included gardens. Not wild forests, but carefully arranged spaces. Orderly rows of herbs, small fountains, marble statues half hidden behind climbing vines. Water trickled continuously, softly, predictably. The sound of water became a form of comfort, a gentle rhythm that masked distant noise. Imagine a retired general walking slowly along a stone path. His sandals brush fallen leaves. He pauses beside a shallow reflecting pool. The sky is mirrored perfectly in its surface. No battle formations, no strategic maps, only clouds drifting lazily overhead. Romans believed gardens were not just decorative. They were philosophical spaces, places for thought, for reflection, for stepping away from the noise of ambition. Even famous Roman thinkers like Seneca wrote about the importance of retreat. He believed that a wise person must occasionally withdraw from public life to regain clarity, to cleanse the mind of agitation, to remember what truly matters. The villa garden became that sanctuary. The sound of fountains at dusk Roman engineering allowed water to flow into private estates through aqueduct systems. Even outside the city, this meant villas could have fountains, not grand public displays, but gentle streams flowing from sculpted stone. Imagine sitting beside one now. The day is cooling. The air smells faintly of earth and olive leaves. Water falls from a carved lion's mouth into a shallow basin. Steady, repetitive, soothing. After the chaos of war, this steady sound might have felt miraculous, because war is unpredictable, but water falling is constant. Some villas included shaded courtyards, open to the sky, with small pools at their centre. These spaces allowed residents to sit quietly, reading scrolls or simply observing light shifting across stone walls. Relaxation did not require entertainment, it required space between thoughts. Simple meals, slow evenings. Even wealthy Romans often preferred modest evening meals at their villas. Fresh bread baked earlier that day, olives harvested nearby, cheese from local farms, figs picked from trees just steps away, wine diluted gently with cool water. Meals were not rushed. Reclining on low couches, they would speak quietly, perhaps recalling stories from campaigns, but softened now by distance, without urgency, without fear. The countryside slowed memory, turned sharp edges into rounded recollections. Laughter came more easily in the quiet, because there was no need to impress, no political rivals watching, just close friends, family, trusted companions, music beneath the columns. Some villas included small musical gatherings, a friend playing a lyre, another softly tapping rhythm. Music in ancient Rome was not thunderous, it was melodic, gentle, carried by open air. Imagine dusk deepening into night, lanterns glowing faintly beneath covered walkways, a simple melody drifting outward into the garden. The general, now no longer commanding anyone, sits quietly listening. His breathing slows. The stars begin to appear. Music was considered therapeutic, a way to restore emotional balance. After war, balance was essential, because conflict sharpens the mind too tightly. Relaxation loosens it again. Reading in the portico. Many Roman elites valued literature deeply. Scrolls were kept in small private libraries, often placed near shaded outdoor walkways called porticos. These were covered corridors supported by columns, cool even during warm afternoons. Imagine walking through one now, stone beneath your feet, a soft breeze moving through open arches. You carry a scroll, perhaps poetry by Virgil, lines describing pastoral life, fields, rivers, shepherds beneath trees. Reading about calm landscapes while sitting within one, the effect doubled, reality and imagination blending into peace. Roman education emphasized rhetoric and debate. But in retirement, reading became quiet pleasure, not preparation, not performance, just private enjoyment, farming as restoration. Some retired soldiers did not seek luxury. They embraced farming. Land grants were common rewards for military service, a plot of earth to cultivate. Imagine our former soldier rising early, not to trumpet calls, but to roost a crow. He steps outside. Morning mist clings lightly to vines. The soil is cool beneath his sandals. He prunes olive branches, checks irrigation channels, feeds animals. There is deep calm in repetitive physical labour, predictable effort, predictable result, seeds planted, harvest gathered. Unlike war, where outcomes remain uncertain, farming taught patience, trust in time, acceptance of seasons beyond human control. Many Roman writers praised agricultural life as morally grounding. It returned a person to fundamentals: food, shelter, community. After years of hierarchy and command, tending a field felt honest, simple, restorative, stoic evenings. Philosophy often accompanied retirement, especially Stoicism. The Stoics taught acceptance of fate, calm endurance, emotional moderation. One of the most famous Stoic leaders, Marcus Aurelius, wrote private reflections reminding himself to remain steady in the face of chaos. Though he ruled an empire, he sought inner peace. Imagine a retired general reading such reflections, by lamplight, in a quiet villa room. He considers past battles, not with regret, but with distance. Stoicism offered mental relaxation, a way to detach from past fear, to let memory soften. Nightfall over the hills. Now the sky deepens. Stars scatter above open countryside. Crickets begin their steady rhythm. Lanterns flicker low. The villa grows silent. From distant fields comes only faint wind. No marching boots, no alarms, no shouted commands, just rural quiet. The general lies down on a simple bed, perhaps softer than camp bedding, but not extravagant. He listens to night's sounds, to his own breath. There is something profound about sleeping without fear. After war, safe sleep becomes sacred. Roman veterans often spoke of the first peaceful night back home, the absence of tension, the body slowly learning it no longer needed constant vigilance. Relaxation is sometimes the rediscovery of safety. The Roman understanding of balance. The Romans were ambitious, expansive, driven, but they also recognized the necessity of pause. Their entire culture reflected cycles: campaign and return, public life and private retreat, heat and cold in the baths, work and leisure. Even their calendar was structured with festivals and rest days, because constant motion exhausts both body and empire, and so villas became symbols, not of luxury alone, but of earned rest, of transition, of healing through nature and routine. Imagine yourself there now. Imagine you're walking through that villa garden, night air cool against your skin, a faint scent of rosemary drifting past, water trickling gently from stone. You sit on a low marble bench. Above you, constellations glow faintly. The world feels wide, but quiet. You're not commanding, not competing, not proving anything, just breathing, just existing, like those retired Romans once did, after war, after noise, after hardship. As night slowly approached, oil lamps flickered to life along the streets. Their small golden flames reflected softly on marble columns and cobblestone paths. The air grew cooler, conversations lowered, footsteps became slower. Somewhere in the distance the doors of a bathhouse opened. The Roman bath was not rushed. It was not chaotic. It was a slow unwinding of the body, a deliberate transition from tension to peace. A returning soldier would walk toward the bath complex with steady steps, not hurried, not exhausted, just ready. From the outside, the building appeared calm and solid. Large stone walls, high arched entrances. Inside, however, warmth waited. As he entered, the first thing he noticed was the change in air. Outside had been cool evening air. Inside, the temperature shifted gently upward, not overwhelming, just enough to signal comfort. He handed his belongings to an attendant. Sandals, cloak, any remaining gear. The act of letting go of possessions, even temporarily, carried a subtle meaning. Nothing to carry, nothing to defend, just rest. The first room was the apoditerium, the changing room. It was quiet at this hour. Earlier in the day it might have been filled with merchants and politicians discussing business. But now, after sunset, it felt calmer. Softer voices, slower movements. Stone benches lined the walls. The floor beneath his feet was smooth and cool. Oil lamps glowed gently in wall niches. He sat, and for a moment he did nothing. Doing nothing is often the hardest part, but it is also the most important. From there, he stepped into the tepidarium, the warm room. This space acted like a bridge between the outside world and deeper relaxation. The air was comfortably warm, wrapping around his shoulders like an invisible blanket. Heat rose slowly from beneath the floor. The Romans had mastered an ingenious heating system called the hypocaust. Beneath the stone tiles, warm air circulated, gently warming the entire room. The warmth was steady and consistent. No sudden shocks, no extremes, just gradual comfort. He sat on a stone bench that had absorbed the day's heat. His muscles, tight from months of marching and battle drills, began to soften. Not instantly, but slowly. The body remembers tension, and it releases it one breath at a time. Other men sat nearby. Some closed their eyes. Some spoke quietly about small things. Food, family, crops growing outside the city. No one spoke about war. In this space, war did not exist. The tepidarium prepared the body for deeper heat. When he felt ready, he stood and moved toward the caldarium, the hot room. The air here was thicker, warmer. Steam drifted lazily upward from a pool of heated water. The light reflected off the surface in soft golden patterns. He stepped closer. The stone floor was warm beneath his feet, not burning, just alive with heat. Slowly he lowered himself into the water. The first touch of heat against skin can feel intense, but after months in cold rain, in dusty camps, in armour under harsh sun, this warmth felt like forgiveness. His shoulders sank below the surface. The water cradled his weight. For a moment, gravity seemed less powerful. Breathing became deeper. Steam wrapped around his face, softening every sharp edge of thought. The sound inside the caldarium was gentle and constant. Water shifting, steam whispering. Occasional quiet movement from others. Heat does something remarkable to the human body. It tells the muscles that they no longer need to brace. It tells the heart that it can slow. It tells the mind that danger has passed. He leaned his head back against smooth stone. The warmth seeped into joints stiff from riding and marching. Scars that once throbbed in cold weather now felt almost weightless. Time inside the baths moved differently. There was no hurry. After long minutes in the hot pool, he rose slowly, droplets of water tracing quiet paths down his arms. From here he moved toward a different kind of sensation, the frigidarium, the cold room. At first, the idea of cold after heat seemed shocking, but the Romans understood balance. Warmth relaxes, cold awakens. Together they restore. He stepped into the cool chamber. The air felt crisp against damp skin. The cold pool lay still, its surface like dark glass. He paused at the edge. Then, with steady breath, he entered. The cold water wrapped around him instantly. Sharp, clear, clean. For a moment his breath caught. Then it steadied. The contrast between hot and cold sent a ripple of energy through his body. Circulation quickened. Skin tingled. And strangely, the mind felt clearer than it had in months. Emerging from the frigidarium, he felt renewed. Not excited, not restless, balanced. From here, many Romans moved to be massaged with olive oil. Attendants would pour warm oil into their palms and work it slowly into tired muscles. The scent was light and earthy. The strigil, a curved metal tool, would gently scrape away dirt and oil from the skin. It was not painful. It was rhythmic, repetitive. The body, cleansed and warmed and cooled in sequence, felt lighter. War leaves more than physical strain. It leaves memories. But even memories soften when the body is calm. After the baths, he stepped back into the night air. The sky above Rome was deep blue, nearly black now. Stars flickered faintly beyond the faint glow of the city. The streets were quieter, shops closed, voices lower. He walked slowly toward home, feeling the gentle ache of muscles that had finally begun to relax. In the distance, someone played a soft melody on a reed pipe. The notes floated gently through the air. Not a triumphant tune, just a simple one. Back home, a small oil lamp glowed beside his bed. The linen sheets were cool and clean. Outside, the sounds of Rome settled into nighttime stillness. No marching, no commands, no clash of steel, only the steady rhythm of breath. As he lay down, the events of the day drifted through his mind. The warmth of the baths, the cool plunge, the quiet conversations. Relaxation for the ancient Roman was not loud celebration. It was ritual. It was balance. It was heat and cold, stillness and breath. And as sleep slowly claimed him, the great city of Rome rested too. Because even warriors in the end seek the same thing we do. A moment of peace and a night of deep, undisturbed sleep. Dinner in ancient Rome, especially for those who could afford it, was an experience designed for slowing down. He stepped through the doorway, and the scent reached him first. Warm bread, olive oil, roasted herbs, perhaps a simple stew of lentils and vegetables simmered earlier in the day. Nothing extravagant, nothing overwhelming, just steady nourishment. The dining room was softly lit by small clay oil lamps placed carefully along the walls. Their light was warm and gentle, not harsh. Shadows danced slowly against painted plaster walls decorated with subtle designs, vines, landscapes, soft colours that felt calming rather than bold. A low table stood in the centre of the room. Around it were reclining couches known as triclinium seating. Romans did not typically sit upright at dinner the way we do today. Instead, they reclined slightly on one arm, eating slowly with the other. Reclining naturally slowed the pace of the meal. It was impossible to rush. He lowered himself onto the couch, resting on his left side. The cushions beneath him were firm but comfortable. The simple act of reclining signalled to his body that the day's labour was finished. This was a time for conversation, for breathing, for quiet enjoyment. A servant placed a small bowl of olives near the table's edge, dark purple and deep green. Their surface glistened lightly with oil. Beside them, a small dish of coarse salt. He picked one up, feeling its smooth skin between his fingers. The flavour was sharp at first, then mellow, familiar, grounding. Bread followed, freshly baked, still slightly warm. The crust cracked gently as it was broken apart. Inside, the texture was soft and airy. He dipped it into olive oil infused with crushed herbs, perhaps rosemary or thyme grown just outside the city. The oil coated the bread, adding richness without heaviness. There was no hurry. Between bites, he listened. Family members spoke softly about small events from the day, a neighbour's new child, repairs needed on a roof tile, the changing weather beyond the city walls, ordinary things, and after months of marching across distant lands, ordinary things felt extraordinary. A main dish was brought to the table, perhaps roasted fish seasoned lightly with garum, the fermented sauce Romans loved, or a simple chicken slow-cooked with figs and honey, blending savoury and sweet. Steam rose gently from the plate. He took small bites, chewing slowly. Romans valued digestion and balance. Eating too quickly was frowned upon. The meal unfolded in courses, but never in overwhelming portions. Between courses, diluted wine was served. Roman wine was rarely consumed straight. It was mixed with water, sometimes warmed slightly in cooler months. The mixture softened its strength, making it more about flavour and relaxation than intoxication. He lifted the cup. The clay felt cool against his fingers. The wine was mild, slightly sweet, with earthy undertones. He sipped, not gulped. Outside, the city quieted further. The sky deepened into full night. After the main dishes came lighter foods, fruit perhaps, fresh grapes bursting softly when bitten, slices of pear, a drizzle of honey over soft cheese. The sweetness was subtle, nothing overwhelming the senses. Dinner in Rome could last hours, but not in a frantic way. It stretched gently, like the evening itself. There were pauses in conversation when no one felt the need to speak, and those silences were comfortable. At some point, someone began telling a story, not of war, not of politics, but of childhood memories. Laughter rose softly, not loud enough to disturb the peace of the house, just enough to warm the air. The soldier felt something shift inside him. During months of military life, meals had been practical, eaten standing, eaten quickly, consumed under watchful eyes. Here, food was not fuel for battle. It was restoration. As the meal slowly came to an end, hands were washed in small bowls of water scented with herbs. The cool water refreshed the skin, removing traces of oil and salt. Oil lamps burned lower now, their flames smaller, the room dimmer. One by one, the dishes were cleared. The table returned to simplicity. The air felt heavier in the best possible way, full of food, warmth, and calm conversation. Outside, the sounds of Rome had nearly disappeared. Occasionally a dog barked in the distance. A guard's footsteps echoed along the outer road. Then silence again. He rose slowly from the couch, feeling the pleasant weight of a full but not overfilled stomach. His body, warmed by baths and nourished by food, felt balanced, satisfied. There is something deeply human about the evening meal. It signals safety. It tells the body that survival, at least for today, has been secured. He stepped into the small courtyard at the centre of the house. Many Roman homes were built around an open atrium where the night sky could be seen above. A shallow pool reflected the stars faintly. He looked up. The same stars that watched over distant battlefields now hovered quietly above Rome. But here they felt different, less harsh, more protective. A soft breeze moved through the courtyard, carrying the faint scent of distant gardens. The air cooled his skin gently after the warmth of the house. Some families would play quiet games in the evening, simple board games with carved pieces. Others would listen to a musician play a soft tune on a lyre. Tonight, perhaps, there was only stillness. Stillness can be a gift. After some time, he returned inside. The oil lamps were nearly extinguished now. Only one remained lit near his sleeping area. His bed was simple, a wooden frame with woven supports and a thin mattress stuffed with wool or straw. A linen sheet lay folded neatly. He removed his outer tunic and lay down slowly. The mattress dipped slightly beneath his weight. Outside, Rome was asleep. The great empire for a few quiet hours had no demands. He closed his eyes. The warmth of the bath lingered faintly in his muscles. The steady satisfaction of the meal rested in his stomach. The soft murmur of family voices echoed gently in memory. Breathing slowed. Inhale, exhale. In ancient Rome, relaxation was not accidental. It was structured, ritualized. Bath, meal, conversation, stillness, each step guiding the body toward rest. And as the oil lamp's flame finally flickered and went dark, the soldier drifted into sleep. Not as a warrior, not as a defender of borders, but simply as a human being at peace in his own home. And beyond the quiet rooftops, the moon rose slowly over the eternal city, watching, guarding, as Rome dreamed. Rome. And in the deepest part of the night, when even the restless have surrendered to sleep, Rome became something entirely different. The city that roared during the day, filled with merchants, senators, soldiers, chariots, arguments, bargaining, laughter, softened into stillness. The noise that once pressed against the senses dissolved into long stretches of quiet. Inside his home, the soldier slept. His breathing had found a slow, steady rhythm. The tension that once held his shoulders tight had finally released. Muscles that had carried armour, shield, and sword now rested against woven fabric and linen. But even in sleep, the body remembers. For months, he had trained himself to wake at the smallest disturbance. A snapped twig, a distant shout, the sudden movement of a horse. War teaches the nervous system to stay alert, to never fully relax. Yet Rome was different. Rome had walls, Rome had guards, Rome had routine, and routine is one of the oldest forms of comfort. Outside, a night watchman walked along the street, sandals brushing against stone. His lantern cast a small circle of light ahead of him. He paused occasionally, listening. Not for danger, but for anything unusual. A door left open. A stray animal knocking over pottery. He tapped his staff lightly against the ground as he walked. A signal. All is well. Inside the atrium, the shallow pool reflected the moonlight. Water barely moved, disturbed only by the faintest breeze drifting through the open ceiling. The stars shimmered faintly on its surface, broken gently by ripples that formed and disappeared. The air had cooled. Stone walls that held warmth during the day now released it slowly into the night. The temperature inside the house felt balanced. Neither cold nor hot. Perfect for sleep. The Roman understanding of rest was subtle but intentional. They believed in balance, in keeping the body aligned with natural rhythms, day for labour, evening for nourishment, night for restoration, and they respected the night. There were no bright lamps burning endlessly, no constant noise, no glowing distractions. Darkness was allowed to be dark. In that darkness, something remarkable happened. The mind softened. Dreams came more easily. Perhaps he dreamed of the countryside, rolling hills beyond the city, olive trees swaying slowly in the wind, the sound of sheep grazing in open fields. Perhaps he dreamed of the baths, steam rising in gentle waves, voices echoing softly against marble walls. Or perhaps, for the first time in many months, he dreamed of nothing at all. Just deep, unbroken sleep. Across the city, other soldiers slept too, some in modest homes, others in shared barracks. Their shields leaned against walls, their sandals placed neatly near the door. In wealthier homes, silk curtains moved lightly in the night air. In simpler homes, woven mats covered cool floors. But sleep came to all. Even the emperor, in his grand palace atop the Palatine Hill, eventually closed his eyes. Even senators who argued fiercely during the day surrendered to the same stillness. Sleep is the great equalizer. It does not recognize rank. It does not honor titles. It simply asks for surrender. Somewhere near the edge of the city, a baker prepared to wake soon. His work began before dawn. He would grind grain and prepare dough while most still slept. But for now, even he rested. The Tiber River flowed steadily beyond the city's heart. Its water moved without urgency, soft, continuous, eternal. The river did not hurry, and neither did the night. Hours passed unnoticed. The moon crossed slowly above rooftops. Constellations shifted gently. A thin cloud drifted across the sky and dissolved. Inside the soldier's home, his breathing deepened. His heartbeat slowed. His body, once conditioned for combat, now repaired itself quietly. Tiny tears in muscle fibers healed. Exhaustion dissolved. The mind sorted through memories, storing some, softening others. There is something ancient about this kind of sleep. Without artificial light, without endless stimulation, just darkness, just quiet, just time. In the far distance, a dog barked once, then silence again. A wooden shutter creaked softly in the breeze, then stillness returned. If you had walked through Rome at this hour, you would have seen something surprising. The mighty empire, silent. Temples that once hosted ceremonies stood empty. The forum where debates shaped the future of nations lay deserted. Markets that buzzed with voices now held only abandoned stalls and folded fabrics. Even the Colosseum, that vast arena of spectacle, rested under the moon's pale glow. The grandeur of Rome did not disappear at night. It simply exhaled. Back inside the house, the soldier shifted slightly in his sleep. Not from discomfort, just the natural movement of a resting body adjusting itself. The linen sheet rose and fell with each breath. The oil lamp from earlier had long since burned out. Its faint scent of extinguished wick lingered softly in the room. There was no rush toward morning, no clock ticking loudly, no alarm waiting to shatter the quiet. Time moved gently, as it was meant to. Eventually the blackness of the sky began to soften. Not bright yet, just slightly less dark. A subtle shift that only the most attentive would notice. Birds sensed it first. Somewhere in a tree near the courtyard, a small bird stirred. Feathers rustled. A faint chirp escaped into the early air. Then another and another. The night watchman reached the end of his shift. His steps grew slower, more relaxed. Soon he would return home, eat a simple meal, and sleep through the morning. The city prepared for transition. Inside the house, the soldier's sleep began to lighten. Not abruptly, not violently, just gradually. Dreams faded like mist. His breathing shifted. His fingers moved slightly against the mattress. The first faint grey light entered the atrium, reflecting off the small pool and sending a soft glow into nearby rooms. He opened his eyes, not wide, not startled, just gently aware. For a moment he didn't move. He simply lay there, noticing the quiet. The deep rest of the night had done its work. His body felt heavy in a pleasant way, not exhausted, not tense, rested. He listened. Birds now sang clearly outside. The distant sound of a door opening echoed faintly from a neighbouring home. Somewhere a rooster called. Morning in Rome did not explode into life. It unfolded. He sat up slowly. The linen sheet fell softly against the mattress. Cool morning air touched his skin. He inhaled deeply, filling his lungs. A new day, but different from the days of war. Here there was rhythm. Here there was structure. He stood and stepped toward the atrium. The sky above was now pale blue, streaked faintly with early light. The pool shimmered gently. He splashed cool water onto his face from a small basin. Refreshing, grounding. Romans often began their morning simply. Bread dipped in wine, fruit, perhaps a small portion of cheese. Nothing heavy. The largest meal belonged to evening. He would dress soon, tie his sandals, prepare for duties, perhaps training, perhaps patrol, perhaps administrative work. But before all that, there was a moment, a quiet pause, standing in the courtyard, feeling the cool stone beneath his feet, listening to the birds, breathing. The same empire that demanded discipline also understood the value of pacing. The baths in the evening, the structured meal, the darkened night, the gentle morning. These were not luxuries, they were systems. Systems that allowed even warriors to remain human. As the sun rose higher, golden light spilled over rooftops. The city began to stir more fully now. Carts rolled, merchants arranged goods, voices returned to the streets. But the soldier stepped into the day differently than before, not carrying the weight of yesterday, not bracing for sudden attack, just moving forward, steady, calm. There is something timeless about the way ancient Romans approached rest. They did not separate work and recovery by accident. They built recovery into the structure of daily life. And as he walked through the slowly brightening street, blending into the rhythm of the city, one truth remained clear. Relaxation was not weakness. It was preparation. Preparation for endurance. Preparation for clarity. Preparation for balance. The night had restored him, and Rome, in its quiet wisdom, would offer the same rhythm again when evening returned. Bath, meal, conversation, stillness, sleep. And so the cycle continued, not rushed, not chaotic, but steady as the flow of the Tiber, steady as the rising and setting of the sun. The empire stood strong not only because of its armies, but because its people knew when to lay their swords down. And in that understanding, they found something powerful. Peace between battles, calm within walls, rest beneath open sky. And as the morning light fully embraced the eternal city, another day began, carried gently on the foundation of a night well slept. And as the morning fully unfolded over Rome, the city no longer whispered. It breathed. Golden light spilled across tiled rooftops, warming terracotta and stone. The narrow streets, once wrapped in night's deep blue stillness, now filled slowly with movement. Shopkeepers lifted wooden shutters. Vendors arranged baskets of figs, dates, and olives. The scent of fresh bread drifted outward from neighbourhood bakeries. Inside his home, the soldier had finished his simple morning meal, a small piece of bread, a few olives, diluted wine. Nothing heavy, just enough to awaken the body. Roman mornings were not rushed in the way modern mornings often are. There was activity, yes, but there was also rhythm, an unspoken understanding that the day would unfold step by step. He stepped outside into the street. The stone beneath his sandals still held a trace of coolness from the night. A neighbour nodded as they passed. A woman carried a clay jar toward a public fountain. 2 boys hurried by, laughing softly, chasing each other in playful competition. There was life here, but not chaos. After months of living in military camps where the day began with shouted commands, clanging metal, and urgent preparation, this steady beginning felt almost luxurious. He walked toward the Forum, the heart of the city. As he approached, the sounds grew richer, merchants calling out prices, distant hammering from craftsmen shaping metal, the murmur of political discussion beginning to rise among gathered citizens. Marble columns reflected sunlight in pale brilliance. Statues cast long shadows across wide open spaces. Pigeons fluttered briefly from ground to rooftop. He paused for a moment near the edge of the square. The Forum represented power, authority, order. But even here, in the centre of the empire's daily affairs, there was structure rather than frenzy. Romans believed in routine not only for rest, but for productivity. The predictability of daily life created stability, and stability reduced unnecessary stress. He did not rush forward. Instead, he walked slowly along the outer edge, observing. A philosopher stood beneath a column, speaking calmly to a small group. His voice was steady, not dramatic. He spoke about moderation, about living between extremes, about avoiding excess. That idea lived everywhere in Roman culture. Not too much food, not too much wine, not too much work, not too much idleness. Balance. The soldier listened briefly, then continued walking. He had duties to attend to, perhaps reporting to a superior, checking on supply lists, ensuring armour repairs were completed. Military life within the city was different from war. Structured, predictable, less adrenaline, more discipline. The armour he wore now was lighter than battlefield equipment. No shield strapped to his arm, no sword drawn, only presence, authority without immediate danger. He found that this calmer rhythm required adjustment. When the body grows used to constant alertness, calm can feel unfamiliar at first. But slowly, day by day, his nervous system began to relearn peace. Midday approached. The sun climbed higher, bright but not oppressive. Romans typically paused during the hottest part of the day. Some returned home briefly. Others rested in shaded porticos. He found a shaded walkway lined with columns and sat on a low stone bench. From here, he could watch without participating. A man negotiated the price of fabric. A child tugged impatiently at his mother's hand. Two older citizens debated quietly, gesturing toward a scroll. Life flowed past him like the Tiber, continuous, unforced. He realized something subtle. During war, rest was something stolen, moments grabbed between responsibilities. Here in Rome, rest was woven into the day. Even now, sitting in shade, doing nothing urgent, he was participating in recovery. His breathing slowed naturally. His shoulders softened. The sounds around him blurred into a steady background hum. In ancient Rome, there was also something called otium, a concept often translated as leisure, but it meant more than that. It was intentional time away from obligation, time for reflection, reading, conversation, or simply quiet thought. Otium was not laziness. It was restoration of the mind. Some wealthy citizens practiced it deliberately, retreating to countryside villas. But even ordinary people experienced smaller versions of it. Shaded pauses, slow meals, evening baths. As the day continued, he completed his responsibilities. A short meeting, a routine inspection, a conversation about next week's training schedule. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, and that was the point. The empire did not run on panic. It ran on repetition. By late afternoon, the sun began its gradual descent. Shadows lengthened again. The air cooled slightly. The soldier began walking home. He passed by a small temple where incense drifted upward in thin, delicate streams. A few citizens stood quietly, offering silent prayers. Even spirituality in Rome often followed rhythm. Offerings at certain hours. Rituals repeated consistently. Structure created calm. As he turned into his neighbourhood street, he noticed familiar details he had once overlooked. The crack in the stone near the fountain, the vine climbing slowly along a neighbour's wall, the sound of someone grinding grain inside a nearby home. These small consistencies anchored him. War had been unpredictable. Rome was steady. He stepped back into his house just as the light shifted from bright gold to softer amber. Evening approached again, and with it, the return of the rituals that restored him the night before. But tonight felt slightly different, because now he understood them more deeply. The baths were not indulgence, the meal was not excess, the quiet courtyard was not emptiness. They were systems, deliberate tools for recovery. As the sky darkened gradually, oil lamps were prepared once more, water heated, ingredients arranged. The cycle would repeat. But repetition, when gentle and intentional, does not become boring. It becomes grounding. He sat briefly in the atrium, listening to the distant hum of the city preparing for night. There was comfort in knowing what came next. First warmth, then nourishment, then darkness, then sleep. The Roman genius was not only in engineering roads or building aqueducts, it was in understanding human endurance. They knew that strength without rest collapses, that discipline without recovery breaks, that even soldiers require softness. And so, as the first stars appeared above the open ceiling of the courtyard, he felt no urgency, no tension, just anticipation for the quiet evening ahead. Rome would grow loud again tomorrow. Debates would rise, markets would buzz, training grounds would echo with commands. But tonight, like every night, the empire would soften, and within that softness its people found resilience, not dramatic, not loud, just steady. And as the sun finally slipped behind the rooftops of Rome, the city once again began its quiet transformation. The golden light faded into soft violet. Shadows stretched long across stone streets. The noise of the forum thinned. Merchants packed away their remaining goods. The rhythm of the day loosened its grip. For the soldier, this was no longer unfamiliar. In the earlier days after returning from war, evenings had felt strange, almost too calm. Silence can feel uncomfortable when the body is used to constant urgency. But now, as Part 7 begins, something inside him has changed. He no longer resists the quiet. He welcomes it. He steps once more toward the baths, not because he must, but because he understands their purpose. The entrance to the bathhouse glows softly with torchlight. Voices echo inside, relaxed, unguarded. The sound is different from the shouts of training grounds or battlefield commands. Here, there is no hierarchy of fear. Inside, warm air wraps around him like a blanket. Steam rises gently toward high ceilings. The marble floors, warmed from beneath, feel smooth under his sandals. He moves first through the apoditerium, placing aside his outer garments. Around him, other men do the same. Conversations flow easily, about politics, about grain shipments, about a chariot race scheduled for next week. No one speaks of war, not tonight. He enters the tepidarium, allowing his body to adjust gradually. The warm air relaxes muscles without overwhelming them. This slow transition from the outside world to deeper heat is intentional. The Romans rarely rushed temperature changes. Even their architecture respected the nervous system. He sits for a moment on a stone bench, feeling the warmth seep gently into his shoulders. Steam softens the edges of thought. The mind begins to slow. From there he moves into the caldarium. The heat is stronger here, enveloping, intense but not harsh. A shallow pool of hot water ripples faintly. He lowers himself slowly, allowing the warmth to surround him fully. Heat does something ancient to the human body. It signals safety. It allows muscles to release tension they did not even realize they were holding. He exhales deeply. Around him, conversations fade into background murmur. Water laps softly against stone. Somewhere a ladle pours more hot water into the bath, creating a gentle splash. Time feels suspended here. There are no clocks, no sudden interruptions, just warmth. After lingering long enough for his skin to flush lightly, he rises and moves again, this time toward the frigidarium. The cold pool waits in contrast, clear, still, reflective like polished glass. He pauses briefly at the edge, then steps in. The cold shocks the skin, sharp, immediate, but not harmful. The body tightens for a moment, breath-catching. Then, within seconds, adaptation begins. The heart beats strong, the mind sharpens, the nervous system resets. Romans believed in this balance of extremes, heat and cold, effort and release. When he steps out of the cold water, droplets fall from his skin onto marble floors. He feels awake in a different way now, not tense, not overstimulated, clear. After drying, he moves toward a quieter corner of the bathhouse, a space often overlooked, a small courtyard within the baths, open to the sky. Here, fewer people gather. The noise from the main chambers fades into soft echo. He sits on a stone ledge. Above him, the sky has deepened to dark blue. The first stars shimmer faintly. A thin crescent moon hangs low. The city beyond the bathhouse continues its gradual descent into night. Distant cartwheels roll more slowly now. Doors close. Laughter drifts from nearby homes. He realizes something profound in this moment. The Romans did not separate community and relaxation. The baths were social. The meals were shared. Even quiet spaces were accessible. Rest was not isolation. It was shared humanity. After leaving the baths, he walks home beneath torchlight. The streets feel different at night, not threatening, but intimate. The vast empire narrows into smaller, manageable spaces. He hears music from a nearby house, the soft plucking of a lyre. The melody is simple, repetitive, calming, repetition again. So much of Roman life depends on repetition. Ritual creates stability. Stability creates safety, and safety allows sleep. Back home, the evening meal awaits once more. Modest, unhurried. Bread, cheese, a small serving of vegetables drizzled with oil, diluted wine. He eats slowly, not because he forces himself to, but because there is no reason to rush. Conversation flows gently among family members. Someone recounts a small mistake made earlier in the day. Laughter rises softly. No one interrupts. There is a softness here that war never allowed. After dinner, oil lamps are dimmed gradually. One by one, darkness is not feared. It is expected. He steps into the atrium again. The shallow pool reflects the moon more clearly tonight. The water surface mirrors the sky almost perfectly, disturbed only when a faint breeze crosses above. He kneels briefly, dipping his fingers into the cool water. Small ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection before it settles once more. That is what the mind is like, he thinks, disturbed by conflict, then settling again in calm. He rises and prepares for sleep. The bed feels familiar now, no longer temporary, no longer uncertain. He lies down. Outside, Rome continues its slow quieting. A final cart rolls past. A door closes somewhere down the street. Footsteps fade. The soldier's breathing begins to slow again. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. His body has begun to trust the night. That trust is not automatic. It is built through repetition, through predictable evenings, through structured rest, through the knowledge that he does not stand alone on an open field, but within the protection of walls, family, and routine. As sleep approaches, he feels something deeper than simple fatigue. He feels restoration. And perhaps that is the true strength of Rome, not only in legions, not only in conquest, but in understanding that endurance requires rhythm, that even the strongest must soften, that even warriors must sleep. The oil lamp flickers once, twice, then steadles. Outside, stars stretch endlessly above the eternal city, and within its walls thousands surrender once more to darkness, not in fear, but in peace. The cycle continues. Effort and ease, heat and cold, light and shadow, community and solitude, day and night. By now the rhythm of Rome feels familiar. The soldier no longer measures his days by urgency, but by flow. Morning light, midday pause, evening warmth, night stillness. Rest is no longer something he must relearn. It has become instinct again. The night passes deeply. No sudden waking, no phantom sounds of distant battle, no reflexive reach for a weapon that is not there, only steady breathing, only darkness, only time moving softly forward. Before dawn, Rome is at its quietest. This hour, just before the first hint of light, holds a particular kind of silence. Even the birds have not yet begun. Even the baker has not yet risen. The air feels suspended, cool, gentle. In this deep quiet, the soldier turns slightly in his sleep. Not from tension, just the natural shifting of a body fully at ease. Beyond the house, the massive shape of the city rests beneath fading stars. The Colosseum stands empty and silent. The Forum lies still. The great temples rise like shadows against the sky. All the structures that represent power and ambition are, for this brief moment, surrendered to calm. And then, almost imperceptibly, change begins. The horizon softens. Dark blue becomes charcoal grey. Grey becomes faint silver. The first bird stirs, a single note, then another. Inside the house, the atrium pool reflects the growing light. The water holds the sky in miniature, a quiet mirror of the world above. The soldier's breathing shifts, lighter now, the mind beginning to rise gently toward wakefulness. He opens his eyes slowly. There is no shock of alarm, no abrupt interruption, just awareness. He lies still for a moment, listening. This pause, this space between sleep and action, has become his favourite part of the day. In war, mornings were immediate. Commands barked before the sun fully rose. Armour strapped on while the air still held night's chill. Here, there is choice. He sits up gradually. The room is filled with pale morning light, soft and forgiving. Dust motes drift lazily through the beam that enters from the atrium. He places his feet on the cool stone floor, grounded, present. He steps toward the courtyard and looks upward. The sky is now light blue, streaked with the faintest pink near the horizon. The city is waking, but gently. He notices something he hadn't before, the consistency. Every morning follows this pattern. Every evening returns to darkness. This repetition builds trust. The human body thrives on predictable cycles. Rome, for all its ambition, respects this. He washes his face in cool water once more, feeling the crisp sensation sharpen his senses without overwhelming them. Breakfast is simple again. Bread, olives, diluted wine. The repetition of food itself is calming. No decision fatigue, no excess variety, just nourishment. Outside, the street grows busier. A cartwheel creaks. A vendor calls out softly. Sandals brush against stone. But even the growing activity does not feel chaotic, because he knows it will quiet again later. That certainty changes everything. Throughout the day, he moves through his responsibilities with a different posture than before. His steps are measured, his breathing steady. He no longer scans every shadow for danger. Instead, he observes details. The way sunlight reflects off marble columns, the rhythm of craftsmen hammering metal, the murmur of political debate rising and falling like waves. He realizes that Rome itself breathes. Morning inhale, midday pause, evening exhale, night rest, and he is part of that breath. As the sun climbs higher, he feels energy, not the frantic energy of survival, but the stable energy of recovery completed. True rest does not make one soft, it makes one resilient. By afternoon, he once again finds shade beneath a colonnade. This time, instead of simply watching others pass, he closes his eyes briefly. Not sleeping, just resting. A practice many Romans understood intuitively. Short pauses, moments of stillness within motion. His mind drifts, but not into chaos, just into gentle reflection. He thinks of the baths, the warmth, the cold plunge, the evening meal, the courtyard under stars. These are not luxuries of wealth alone. They are tools of restoration, and Rome has perfected them. As evening approaches once more, he notices that he anticipates the cycle not with relief, but with appreciation. There is something deeply human about knowing the day will end softly. That darkness will come gradually. That warmth and food and quiet conversation await. Back home, preparations begin again. Water is heated. Lamps are readied. The sky transitions through gold, amber, and violet. He steps into the atrium as he did the night before, watching the sky dim through the open roof. But tonight, his thoughts are clearer than ever. War demanded constant readiness. Rome demands balance, and balance is sustainable. He understands now why the empire has endured for so long, not only because of roads and armies, but because of rhythm. A civilization that builds space for rest builds longevity. He lies down later that night with no resistance in his body, no tightness in his jaw, no clenching in his fists. His hands rest open against the linen. Open hands, a symbol of safety. Outside, the city once again softens. Footsteps fade, doors close, conversations end, darkness deepens. And beneath the same stars that have watched over countless generations, the soldier falls asleep easily, deeply, trusting the walls around him, trusting the routine, trusting the cycle. The rhythm has become so natural now that it almost disappears. When something repeats gently enough, long enough, it no longer feels like a structure. It feels like life itself. It unfolds again. The sky lightens gradually above tiled rooftops. The atrium pool catches the first pale shimmer of morning. The air holds that cool softness that exists only in the earliest hours. The soldier is already breathing steadily, still asleep. There is something different about his sleep now compared to the first nights after returning from war. Back then, rest was shallow, interrupted. His body remained half prepared for danger. Now, the sleep is complete, heavy in the best way, repairing. He turns once, slowly, without tension. The linen sheet shifts quietly. Outside, a single bird tests the morning with a soft call. The sound does not startle him. It blends into the silence. Dawn continues its patient arrival. Shadows withdraw from corners. The sky transitions from silver to pale gold. The city begins again. But before he rises, there is a moment. That small, sacred pause between sleep and movement. His eyes open. He does not immediately sit up. He listens. The distant murmur of early footsteps. The faint creak of wood. Water being poured somewhere nearby. The world is returning, but gently. He inhales deeply, and for the first time since the war ended, he feels something steady beneath it all. Trust. Trust in walls. Trust in routine. Trust in the simple predictability of evening baths and shared meals. Trust that night will return when the sun sets. He rises and moves toward the atrium. The sky above is brighter now, painted in soft hues of gold and blue. The shallow pool mirrors the light, disturbed only by a faint breeze. He washes his face again. Cool water, a familiar sensation. Repetition is calming because it removes uncertainty. There is no question about what comes next. Breakfast, work, midday pause, evening return. This rhythm gives shape to time. He steps into the street. The city feels alive but not hurried. Merchants arrange their goods. Children carry small baskets. A cart rolls slowly past. He notices something else now. He no longer walks like someone bracing for impact. His steps are grounded, measured. There is space between movements. In the forum, activity builds as usual. Voices rise and fall. Debates begin. Scribes unroll scrolls. The machinery of governance turns steadily. But the soldier observes with calm detachment. He knows the day has edges. It will not stretch endlessly. There will be a pause. There will be evening. There will be rest. That certainty softens everything. By midday, the sun warms the stone streets. Heat gathers along walls and columns. Citizens retreat into shade. Conversations continue beneath porticos where cool air lingers. He finds his now familiar shaded place and sits. This time, he does not simply watch. He closes his eyes for a few slow breaths. Not sleeping, just allowing the body to reset. The Romans did not have a word for stress in the modern sense, but they understood imbalance. Too much exertion without recovery weakened even the strongest legions. Too much indulgence without discipline dulled the mind. So they practiced moderation, even in effort, even in rest. As afternoon fades, the quality of light shifts again. Gold replaces white. Shadows lengthen. The city prepares for transition. He walks home slowly, aware of how different his inner world feels compared to weeks ago. Then, his thoughts were sharp and scattered. Now, they are spacious. He passes a small gathering where a man plays a flute softly. The melody is simple, repetitive, almost hypnotic. A few listeners sit quietly, not applauding, not reacting dramatically, just listening. The empire is vast, its armies strong, its architecture monumental. But its true endurance may lie in moments like this, where sound, light and routine align gently. Back home, preparations begin again. Water warms, food is arranged, oil lamps wait to be lit. The evening bath restores the body once more. Warmth loosens muscles, cold sharpens awareness. The cycle completes itself again. At dinner, conversation flows without urgency. Someone speaks of market prices. Someone else mentions a small festival approaching. Laughter rises and fades. No one rushes. No one checks a clock. Darkness arrives gradually. The oil lamps glow softly against the deepening blue outside. The courtyard sky transitions to indigo. Stars begin their quiet appearance. He steps into the atrium one last time before bed. The pool reflects constellations above. For a moment, it feels as though the sky exists both overhead and beneath his feet. He kneels briefly, touching the water, cool, still, like the mind now. There is a realization forming, not dramatic, not loud, simply clear. Relaxation is not escape, it is integration. The baths, the meals, the pauses, the dark nights, they are not distractions from life. They are life. He lies down. The linen feels familiar against his skin. The stone walls hold the last trace of warmth from the day. Outside, Rome softens again. Footsteps diminish. Doors close. Voices quiet. And the empire that once thundered with conquest rests under a calm sky. His breathing slows. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The nervous system, once trained for survival, now trusts the pattern fully. Night will hold him, morning will return, and between them, rest will do its quiet work. The rhythm no longer needs to be explained. It simply exists. Rome wakes, Rome moves, Rome softens, Rome sleeps. No sudden revelation, only completion, like the final exhale at the end of a long, steady breath. The soldier wakes before dawn once more, not from habit of alarm, not from tension, but from a body that has fully restored itself. The room is dim, touched only by the faint grey of the early morning. He remains still for a moment, feeling the quiet around him. The air is cool, The world outside has not yet begun to stir. In war, silence meant uncertainty. Here, silence means safety. He rises slowly and steps into the atrium for what feels like a familiar ritual, though it has only been days. The open roof frames a sky that is gradually lightening. The shallow pool reflects that pale shift from dark to silver. He looks upward. Above him, the same sky that watched over battlefields now watches over peace. Nothing in nature changed. Only the setting, only the rhythm. That realization settles gently in his mind. Strength was never only about endurance under pressure. It was about knowing when to release. He washes his face in cool water one more time, grounding himself in the present moment. The sensation is clear but not sharp, awakening but not jarring. Breakfast follows its usual pattern, simple, predictable, nourishing. Bread, olives, diluted wine. No excess, no rush. Outside, the city slowly gains volume. A cartwheel rolls over stone. A vendor calls out softly. Doors open to begin the day. He walks through the streets with steady steps. The forum hums with its usual activity. Marble columns glow in morning light. Citizens debate, trade, negotiate. The empire continues. But he sees it differently now. He no longer views Rome as something demanding his constant vigilance. He sees it as a structure built on cycles. Even the greatest civilization pauses each night. Even the strongest walls rest in darkness. By midday, the sun climbs high and warmth spreads across the city. He completes his duties calmly, without urgency pressing against his thoughts. When he sits beneath the shade of a colonnade for a brief rest, he closes his eyes not out of exhaustion, but out of choice. A short pause, a gentle reset. He breathes in, he breathes out. The sounds of the city fade into background rhythm, and in that moment, he understands something fully. Relaxation is not the opposite of strength. It is the foundation of it. Without the baths, the meals, the quiet courtyards, the predictable evenings, the legions would weaken. Without sleep there is no discipline. Without rhythm there is no endurance. As the sun lowers for the final time in this story, the light turns golden once more. The rooftops glow. Long shadows stretch across stone streets. He walks home slowly. There is no heaviness in his body now. No bracing against unseen danger. Only a steady awareness of the cycle completing itself again. At the bathhouse, warmth envelops him as it has before. Steam rises softly. Voices echo gently against high ceilings. He moves through heat, then cold, then stillness, each step deliberate, each transition unhurried. At home, the evening meal unfolds with familiar ease. Conversation drifts without strain. Laughter rises and settles. Oil lamps are lit. Darkness deepens gradually. He steps into the atrium one last time before sleep. The sky above is scattered with stars. The shallow pool reflects them perfectly, as though the heavens have doubled. He stands quietly, and in the reflection he sees not a warrior returning from chaos, but a man integrated back into rhythm. Rome breathes around him, not loudly, not forcefully, just steadily. He lies down. The linen is cool, the air is calm. Outside, footsteps fade. Doors close. The empire softens. His breathing slows naturally. Inhale. Exhale. There is no tension left to unwind, no vigilance left to quiet. Only rest. True rest. And as sleep takes him once more, Rome continues its ancient cycle, rising with light, pausing with heat, softening with dusk, surrendering to night. The greatness of Rome was not only in conquest or architecture, it was in understanding that even the strongest systems must recover. That power without pause collapses. That endurance is built in quiet courtyards and warm baths and steady evenings under open sky. The city exhales, the soldier sleeps, and somewhere beyond rooftops and marble columns the stars remain, constant, patient, watching over a world that moves in rhythms older than empire itself. The story does not end. It settles, just like Rome at night, just like breath slowing into sleep, and in that steady darkness, strength renews itself, quietly, completely, endlessly.